This market is absolutely crazy for buyers who are looking for their first time property here in the Denver area. And I will say it's really hard to know if you should rent or if you should buy a property, because on one hand, it seems like it's much cheaper to rent. And then you've got all of the people telling you that it's better for you to buy for your long-term wealth. Not only that, everywhere you look, from Sloan's Lake to Union Square, there are new luxury apartment buildings popping up. All of them are offering huge discounts, 1 month of free rent or some sort of cheap incentives to help you get into that property. So it's really hard to know what to do. There's also an incredible amount of inventory in this really lower end price range. And so I'm here today to help you figure out what actually makes sense. I'm a previous math teacher. I'm here to help you work through all of the numbers and also some of the info of what's really going on in the Denver market to help you make a better decision. The reality is that the Denver market is really flooded right now with what we call multi-family inventory. And if you're not in real estate, you probably don't really know what that means. Multi-family basically means a complex or a community of homes that are all attached. So potentially townhome communities or condo communities. A condo is specifically a building that has multiple floors, and you as the owner own just that little slice of the floor. And the benefit to these attached communities is that it's less expensive, obviously, to build, but then the entire community then is responsible for some of the maintenance of the exterior, which can actually be really beneficial for you. I mean, I would really love it if somebody else was responsible for my roof or my exterior. Multifamily units could also mean apartment communities that are just built to rent. So definitely driving around, I see these all over the place. The interesting part about all of these communities popping up is that our vacancy levels are actually really high. The Metro Denver apartment vacancy rate climbed to 7.6% at the end of 2025, and that's actually the highest rate that we've had in 16 years. Which is really scary. With the surge in supply and a decade-long building boom, basically meaning we have been building all of these properties for tenants to live in, people to rent, there's a lot of supply out there. And that is definitely driving average rents lower across the Denver metro region, which is actually a good thing for our affordability, of course, because the talk has always been that Denver is incredibly expensive, which it is. Our average price point is hovering around $740,000. That's for all properties in the region. But if you are moving from out of state, that seems really overwhelming when you can get a really nice house with some land for $400,000 in Tennessee, which I know because I just had a client who moved out there. All of these major projects, here's some examples. The Stack at Wheat Ridge has 255 units. It's absolutely beautiful. The Irving at the Mile High Vista. There's also some coming up in the Ken Carroll area right over by me. These are all hitting the market and they're really contributing to this available supply. And in order, of course, to combat these high vacancy rates, landlords are offering aggressive deals of some sort, 1 month free specials or look and lease bonuses. This is really good if you're a renter, and also it makes you think that it's better to rent, which it might be. I have somebody very close to me who is renting a property and knows that she will want to buy soon and is just kind of preparing. So this video is for you both to be aware of the reality of the Denver market, the entry-level market, and also to make yourself prepared over time so that you are ready to buy when it's time for you. Let's talk about condos specifically, because that does tend to be our entry-level price point. It's the easiest property to buy, and usually what people do is they buy a condo in their 20s and they are potentially gifted some money from a relative, which is very, very helpful for that down payment, and then their equity grows on that over time. And then they're able to sell that property, and it's kind of like a real estate stepladder, where then they move into their kind of mid-level, maybe like the entry-level single-family home, and then eventually they're able to buy that $1 million home in the perfect neighborhood. When we look at this condo market, what we're seeing right now is that there's a lot of properties for sale. I mean, I just pulled up a search for a client the other day, and they're in his area. There were 36 homes that were free-standing single-family homes. That's what we call them. And there were 211 condos or townhomes. So obviously quite a bit more inventory. The price trend for these attached homes is a median of $390,000. And that's about a 2% price decrease year over year. Yes, they are dropping in value. The market has kind of stagnated for these properties. They're taking a lot longer to sell, up 31%. Median days on market, it's like 63 days to sell. The market has definitely stagnated for these properties. They're taking a lot longer to sell, with about 63 days on market for half of them, and that's 31% higher than it was last month. One of the biggest issues is the HOA fee, because a person who's looking at buying one of these properties with let's say a $500 a month HOA, or maybe $300 a month, is thinking to themselves, why would I pay that HOA fee when I could get a single family home, or I could just go be a renter, right? And also, that HOA fee actually decreases your purchasing power. So approximately for every $50 a month, it's closer to 40, but depending on the interest rate of your payment, you can afford $10,000 more. So a $300 a month HOA fee is 6 of those $50 a month. So about $60,000 more is how much you could afford in home. Now, if you're in the entry-level price point of around $300,000, you're probably not going to get into a single-family home without an HOA. But if you're in the $400,000 price range, you could probably jump into something that doesn't have an HOA fee and be really close to what you wanted your payment to be. The very interesting part of this is that as a buyer in this condo market, this lower level, $300,000 to $500,000 market, you can get a huge deal. Like, the deals are insane. Just like they are with the rentals, they are that way with condos as well. We can go in and get you a 10% seller concessions and use that to help you buy down the interest rate. Or you just offer a little less than what their original asking price was. The close to list price ratio for these is 97%. And that's off of the current list price, not of the original list price. Now, that's not to say that all of them are going to be like that. The ones that are turnkey and really well priced are going to sell really fast because they're kind of like a rental and somebody sees the value in it. Okay, so let's jump into whether it's actually better to rent or buy. And I'm gonna do a little bit of a case study with you.
Okay, let's talk about buying and renting a property in kind of the Red Rocks area and look at a cost comparison of all of this. So here is an example of a property that's for sale for $400,000. And as you can tell, it's actually really pretty inside, although this is virtual staging, just so you know. You can see kitchen is pretty open, I would say. They probably painted the cabinets recently, although I bet it has Formica countertops. And probably new flooring. It looks pretty nice. It does have multiple levels, so that's kind of cool. So it has a basement to it, and then the bedrooms are upstairs. And then it looks like this on the outside. So lots of street parking, it looks like, but plenty of walkability here. And It does have a garage as well, so that's kind of nice. This is listed by Carly Picorni, Liz Sotheby's, and it's a very nice property. So let's kind of do the math on that real quick. So property taxes, about $177 a month, homeowners insurance, and I think this might be a little high actually, because I think a condo premium is a lot lower. HOA fee is definitely really high. That is probably what freaks people out the most, $568 a month. But cool part, it does cover grounds maintenance, snow removal, trash, recycling, water, and sewer. So you would be paying for a lot of those yourself if you were a homeowner. So a couple $100, I would say you'd be paying anyway. So your all-in total payment is right around $3,200, $3,300. And that definitely is assuming a few things specifically. So we're making these assumptions based on a 5% down payment, which is around $20,000 for this condo, and the interest rate right around 6%, which is where February 2026 rates are currently hovering. So obviously use a mortgage calculator to make sure that these are accurate. Okay, so now let's check out this condo over here in the Red Rocks area. It's an apartment and you can get 3 bedrooms for around $2,300 a month. And if you'll notice, you have like a pool and a whole workout center. That's pretty awesome, right? I think it's always nice to check out the amenities on these things, yeah? And then the inside of the homes are actually really nice. These are probably professionally staged, so it'll depend on your furniture on how it really looks, but they look really clean and up to date and really nice flooring. So good option. And of course, the benefit to not having a HOA and not having a maintenance at all is why people are really drawn to renting. I mean, there is some benefit to the Colorado lifestyle and living outside and not constantly working on your house. I know lots of people who choose to live in condos or townhomes or just rent because they really appreciate the fact that everything is literally taken care of for them. So on the rent side, it says, $22.15 up per month. And then there's probably some parking fees also. So let's just estimate right around $2,300 a month, which is actually really competitively priced. And I think it's a good price for this. Okay, so if we just put all of these things into a nice little comparison chart, here we have the payments. And so obviously it looks like it's so much cheaper to rent, which it is. It's close to $1,000 less expensive to rent. But this is the key, and I want you to pay close attention to it. Over the course of 10 years, you will have built equity in the condo versus the expense of just paying somebody else. You're also going to be paying off your own principal, so you're paying down your mortgage, and the property is appreciating. So over the course of 10 years, now you have built up a significant amount of equity. And I'm just going to back up for a second and say this is definitely based on the assumed appreciation of 3%, which honestly in the Denver area is very, very low because usually we say 6% appreciation, but we've been relatively flat the last few years. So we're just assuming a very low appreciation. So at first glance, $985 a month savings on renting seems like it really makes the most sense, doesn't it? And you definitely have to have that down payment saved. $20,000 is not a small amount of money, although it's really good idea to ask somebody else for that gift, and they can use it as a tax write-off. And I'll have a whole nother video on using gift funds to help somebody buy a property. But the monthly savings that you have is actually only savings if that renter, you, save that money, right? And how many of you are actually taking $1,000 a month and putting it into a savings account for 10 full years. It's highly unlikely. I'm just going to guess that it's highly unlikely. But if you put that money into the house, then you have $118,000 of the equity and appreciation. And that's just based on that $20,000 you put in. So now you have options. You have $100,000 that you can now use to help you buy another property. And that's where this buying ladder works so well. The equity that you have in your house is like this gold mine for you, and it builds wealth over time. Appreciation, principal pay down, and owning a property actually makes you wealthier over time because you have appreciation over the course of those 10 years. That property, instead of being worth $400,000, is going to be worth closer to $540,000, which gives you a lot more cash to deal with. Plus, you've been paying on that mortgage over the course of 10 years. So now you have another $70,000. So your total equity from that $20,000 investment is around $300,000. That's amazing. From that $20,000 that this renter put in, and of course the $1,000 extra they're paying every month, over the course of 10 years, now they, instead of having an asset that's worth $400,000, it's appreciated by around 3% every year. So maybe $540,000 in 10 years. So now they have another $140,000. Plus, they've been paying off their principal. So they have closer to $70,000 there. So a total equity of around $200,000 just by owning a property. Now, you might say that if you saved $1,000 a month, that you could have that much money, but let's just do that math real quick. Also, if you take $1,000 times 12, that's $12,000, right? Times 10 years, so $120,000. That doesn't even reach the 210 right there. Now, what if you invested that money? Okay, possibly, but now you are trying to make 6% or so in the stock market on 100 or a smaller amount of money versus the equity that you have in your house, where you've leveraged that $20,000 and now the asset is worth $400,000 and it can appreciate at a 3% rate for a longer period of time. So $400,000 appreciating at 3 to 6% is going to give you more than just putting $1,000 into an account and investing it over time. Here's the other problem that I'm going to tell you. It's the trap that we really think that that money is going to be saved, and yet it's not. It just gets absorbed into our lifestyle. If you have an extra $1,000 every month, you're probably going to want to buy a new bike or do something fun, not put it into the stock market. So even though you are really paying your money into this house that seems like it's so much more expensive, it's really, really doing you good things over the course of time. So if you want to make a move in 2026, what you need to remember is there are a crazy amount of properties in this entry-level price range for sale. There's 8,000 or more active residential listings, and this gives you an incredible advantage as a buyer. And also, there's a lot of incentives that you can get. I will help you make a decision based on your exact budget and your exact circumstances. So definitely time to leverage this opportunity in this buyer's market that Denver is having right now, because there's a lot of options and it's really easy to get enticed by like the shiny new pool and the beautiful apartment complex. But also, I want the best for you and for my clients. And so I would love to chat with you. Schedule on my Linktree. Let's chat. I'm Heather O'Leary with eXp Realty. I talk to people all the time who are just exploring their options. So give me a call or send me a text.